Today, I bring you a summary of the 2002 film Dark Water, from acclaimed Ringu director Hideo Nakata, a chilling Japanese psychological thriller that blends supernatural horror with deep emotional drama. Yoshimi, a recently divorced mother, moves into an old apartment building with her young daughter, hoping for a fresh start. But soon, a constant drip of dirty water, a mysterious stain on the ceiling, and a red backpack left behind, begin to uncover a terrifying truth, hidden within the walls. Stay until the end because what you're about to see is one of the most devastating endings in horror movie history. A conclusion that will not only chill you to the bone but will also break your heart. The movie begins with a little girl waiting at school while it's raining. The scene shifts and we see a woman looking out the window as the rain falls. We hear someone call her name, Yoshimi. She's talking with others and we learn that she's recently divorced and is fighting for custody of her daughter, Ikuko. We get some background on Yoshimi. She underwent psychiatric therapy 10 years ago due to the stress from her job as a proofreader. Now she's unemployed and doesn't have a place to live. After the court hearing, we see Yoshimi looking for a place to stay. During her search, they visit an old apartment building. They go up in an elevator where there's a puddle of water on the floor. As they step out, the elevator doors close behind them on their own, and a shadow briefly appears on the security cameras. While the apartment is being shown to her, Yoshimi loses sight of her daughter. She goes to the building superintendent, and while asking about Ikuko, she sees the elevator camera footage showing her daughter heading up to the rooftop. When she gets there, she finds her daughter with a red lunchbox that had been left behind. At the building's reception, the manager tells them it's nothing unusual. Many children have lived there before, and decides to place the lunchbox in the lost and found box. Yoshimi gets ready for a job interview and notices a damp stain on the ceiling. We then see her take a pill, turn on the faucet, and fill a glass with water. As she drinks, she notices a strange taste. When she checks the water, we see strands of hair floating in it. She decides to speak with the building manager, but he responds indifferently, saying he'll make a note of it. It's Ikuko's first day at her new school, cheerfully introduces herself to her classmates. Back at home, Yoshimi is finishing unpacking when we see that the leak has spread. While taking out the trash, spots the red lunchbox in the bin. She goes to speak with the neighbors about the leak. Knocks on the door but no one answers. As she walks away, she sees the door open and a shadow appear. Yoshimi is in a job interview. We see her growing anxious as the interview drags on, realizing she won't make it in time to pick up her daughter from school. She grabs her phone to make a call. We cut to a memory of her as a child, waiting alone at school for her parents to come pick her up. Ikuko is now seen walking alone in the rain when suddenly stops upon seeing a girl in a yellow raincoat. Yoshimi can't wait any longer. She quickly summarizes her work experience, says goodbye, and runs off toward the school. At night, Yoshimi arrives at the school, but it's closed, and Ikuko is nowhere to be found. She turns toward a pole, and sees a missing child flyer, Mitsuko Kawaii, 5 years old, last seen wearing a hooded yellow raincoat. Yoshimi eventually finds Ikuko, holding her father's hand. He came to pick her up. As they walk back, they come across a family playing with sparklers. Ikuko stops, watching the scene. Then, her mother says they'll buy some too. Ikuko stops her mother, and says, "I don't need anyone but you." Yoshimi kneels down, hugs her tightly, and replies, "I can handle anything, just as long as you're with me." Later that night, back at the apartment, Yoshimi receives a notification she got the job. They decide to light the sparklers on the rooftop. But when they get there, Yoshimi sees the door open, and someone passing by. Then, the door is closed again. Was it just an illusion? They open the door, and find the red lunchbox lying on the floor. Ikuko picks it up, but Yoshimi pulls her back, and chooses to throw the lunchbox away. At school, the children are playing hide and seek. While Ikuko is hiding, she sees the legs of a girl, wearing a raincoat, with water spreading out beneath her feet. Yoshimi rushes to the school, after hearing that her daughter fainted. Upset, she blames the staff. But they explain that, in divorce cases, these kinds of situations are common. Yoshimi turns, and notices a wall covered in children's drawings. She stops, staring at one that says, "Come home soon, Mitsuko." The principal explains that, one day Mitsuko's mother abandoned her, and she's been missing for 2 years. In court, Yoshimi is asked if it's true that she's often late picking up her daughter, and if she ever dislocated her daughter's shoulder. She denies it. Then they ask if she's been wandering around at night. Yoshimi responds that it only happened for a short time, during her own parents' divorce. As she leaves the courthouse, she confronts Ikuko's father, and loses control. Yoshimi speaks with her lawyer. He explains that, when it comes to children under the age of 7, the mother usually has the advantage in custody cases. However, he warns her, she needs to get her life back on track. If she continues to experience emotional crises, it will be impossible for her to gain custody. Back home, she thanks her aunt for taking care of Ikuko. Her aunt tells her gently that she's a good mother, unlike her own. Then she leaves. Exhausted, Yoshimi falls asleep, and begins to have visions. Mitsuko is waiting in the rain at school looking for her parents. She's seen walking toward the building, entering the elevator with 2 other workers carrying cleaning tools. She takes off her hat, and we catch a glimpse of her blurry face. Yoshimi wakes up. The leak has spread. Ikuko is gone. Yoshimi runs out, searching for the building manager, but he's not at his post. She checks the security cameras, but can't find her. The elevator shows it's on the 7th floor. She remembers the first day she found her daughter heading toward the rooftop in the elevator. We see her on the monitor, but she's not alone. There's a shadow on the rooftop. Yoshimi sees someone behind the water tank. She decides to take the stairs. At the top, she finds Ikuko's red lunchbox lying on the ground. She calls Ikuko's father, hoping she might be with him, but as the phone rings, she hears footsteps upstairs. She climbs further, knocks on the door, calling out for Ikuko. The door is unlocked. She enters. Water floods the apartment. Out of the darkness, Ikuko appears. Yoshimi picks her up in her arms, and behind her, we see the shadow of a little girl. As they leave the apartment, Yoshimi looks up and notices a sign above the door. It reads, "Shoji and Mitsuko Kawaii." Yoshimi packs her things to move out, believing that Mitsuko has returned, and wants to take Ikuko. The lawyer tries to calm her down, saying, moving again would only complicate things in court. They go upstairs to check the apartment. The door is unlocked, and the place is filled with water leaks. The lawyer, clearly frustrated, scolds the building staff for ignoring Yoshimi's complaints. On the rooftop, he tries to reassure her. What you saw last night could have just been a shadow from another building. He then tells her, the father's lawyer has agreed to her terms. The final decision will be made in the next hearing. That evening over dinner, Yoshimi shows Ikuko a new lunchbox, one she bought for her return to school. But when she opens it, she finds Mitsuko's red lunchbox. Startled, Yoshimi immediately calls the lawyer. Ikuko reaches for the lunchbox, but Yoshimi grabs it away, trembling, lost in another vision. She tells Ikuko, "Don't go outside," and rushes to the rooftop. There she touches the old water tank, and sees a vision, Mitsuko climbing up the side of the tank. Yoshimi checks the maintenance log. The last entry matches the day Mitsuko was last seen alive. She sees the girl peering into the tank, dropping her lunchbox, and falling in trying to get it back. In the bathroom, the bathtub faucet turns on, by itself. Dark water begins to flood the room. Suddenly, pale hands reach out, and pull Ikuko's head under the water as she struggles to escape. In the bathroom, Yoshimi finds Ikuko, unconscious, in the tub. The water churns violently. She grabs her daughter, runs out of the apartment, and tries to call the elevator. Water pours from the walls. And then, a short circuit. Sparks fly. The apartment door swings open. Ikuko steps out, calling, "Mama?" Yoshimi turns, just as Mitsuko's ghost lunges at her, shrieking, "Mama!" The spirit attacks. Ikuko runs toward her mother, but Yoshimi stops her. "Don't come any closer." She turns to the ghost and whispers, "I am your mother." She embraces Mitsuko. The elevator doors begin to close. Mother and daughter exchange one final lingering glance. Yoshimi lowers her eyes. The elevator starts to rise. Ikuko, desperate, runs up the stairs. At the top floor, she approaches the small window searching for her mother, and not seeing her, she falls to the floor, crying inconsolably, calling out for her mother. Then the elevator doors open, and a massive wave of water bursts into the hallway. Ikuko lets out a scream, "Mom!" 10 years have passed. Ikuko, now a young woman, watches a little girl waiting for her mother at the school she once briefly attended. As she stands there looking at the school, she decides to walk toward the building. The structure looks run down. Ikuko goes up to the apartment where she used to live. Standing in front of the door, she looks at the nameplate that reads, "Yoshimi and Ikuko Masabara." She steps inside the apartment, and it looks untouched, as if time had never passed. She looks around, and just as she's about to leave, she turns back. As she does, she sees her mother. Yoshimi welcomes her and says she's grown so much. She tells her that if she had known she was living there, she would have visited sooner. Her mother replies, "It doesn't matter. I'm just happy you came." Ikuko asks, "Can I live with you?" Then she hears the sound of a drop falling. Her mother says, "I'm so sorry, but we can't be together." Mitsuko appears behind Ikuko. She turns around, but Mitsuko is already gone. When she looks back at her mother, she's no longer there either. Ikuko walks away slowly and we hear her say, "My mother was here all that time, protecting me." Every story has an end, but also a new beginning. Subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter. And let me know in the comments, what did you think of the movie? How did you feel about the ending? See you on screen.